Hello, and thank you for joining me. I am Paula by Paper Crafts by PRB, and I'm going to show you how to make this one-page wonder. It's pretty easy. So here's the front part. I just did a collage on the front. All right, you open it up, and you have a pocket right here, and I put a tag in there with a little, I used a lace little pull tab. This side, I just left this blank. Of course, you could, put some journaling spot. You could use that for a journaling spot. You could put some vellum on it, make a vellum pocket, a vellum flip. You could add a photo, okay? And then you turn it again, and there is a flip right here. I put another collage right here, butterfly, some more lacy trim stuff. Okay, you open that up, and you have another pocket right here. I put a tag type of journaling card in there. Okay, so that goes like that. Again, I left this side blank. Lots of options you could do with that. Some more journaling space to write notes. Okay, you open it up. Again, I didn't want to cover up this paper too much. I think it's very pretty. Of course, that's your choice, depending on the paper that you use. And then there's a top loading pocket right here that I just put another journaling card in there with a tab up here at the top. Okay, so fairly easy to make. Let me show you how to do that. So you're gonna want a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock. So mine is one piece, but I already cut it. So you're either gonna want one piece that's 12 by 12, or you're gonna want two pieces that are gonna be 6 by 12. Well, I should say 6 by 12. 6 by 12, two pieces. All right, so here are my two pieces. And from here, let me show you. We're gonna go ahead and grab my scoreboard. And they're both gonna be scored exactly the same. Okay, so I'm putting that on my scoreboard like this. All right, and they're gonna be scored at 1.5. Okay, I already scored this one, so I'm kind of faking this one. So 1.5, 5.5, and 9.5. Okay, so that's going to be one. And then the other one is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to put that in there just like that. And I'm going to go 1.5. And I'm going to go 5.5. And then 9.5. Okay, so that's all the scoring you need. I'm going to put this back. So basically, it depends on your directional, what kind of paper you have. If it's directional, you're gonna have to decide which way you want it to turn. So here's my first piece, 1.5, 5.5, and 9.5. So this one, we're gonna go 1.5, and we're gonna fold it this way. Okay, easy, easy. Okay, so we're gonna have a pocket right here, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a little fancy little cut right there on the corner to make our pocket. Okay, and I'm gonna glue the two sides right here. All right. All right, so that's gonna make that inside pocket. Let me get that to stay there. Okay, and then from here, it's just gonna be folded like this, and it's gonna be folded like this. Okay, so I'm sure you can see that. So here is my two score lines, and we're folding it just like that. Okay, here is the 1.5 score line, and I just folded it in. Okay, so I folded it in. All right, so that's that. Let me go ahead and crease these so that they are a little bit, okay. Next, you're going to bring in your other piece that we scored at 1.5, 5.5, and 9.5. And this piece where we scored at the 1.5, go ahead and turn that over, and that's going to go right here. Okay, so we have this one folded like this. Okay, and that's going to go right here. All right, so we're going to go ahead and fold that like that. Okay, and I am going to make little notches right here on the ends of these because this is going to be another pocket. Okay, so this is going to go on here like this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put glue here, here, and along the bottom. Okay, so that's going to go on here like this. Just like that. Easy so far, right? Okay. There we go. All right, next we're going to make a pocket. So it's going to go, if I can get this to fold. So you're going to fold. Okay, so you have this glued onto here. This is going to get folded like this, and we're going to have a pocket right here. And then this is just going to be a little flip. Okay. All right. So I am going to put a thumb notch right here, and then we're going to glue this pocket. All right, here we go. Right about there. Okay, now we're going to create this pocket. So I'm going to open this back up. We're going to glue here and here, but of course on the inside. Okay, so we're gluing here, and we're gluing here. Okay, and that's the assemble. Now if you want to, instead of having this flip out like that, okay, so for example, here's our little book. Let me go ahead and crease those down a little better. Okay, so here's the front, here's the inside, here's a pocket, here's the inside first page, okay, and then here's a flip right here, here's a pocket, here's another flip. If you want to, now of course that would kind of, you know, cover up that top notch, but if you don't put a notch in that pocket, you could always glue that and have another pocket right here, and then have a top loading pocket right here. But I'm going to leave mine just like that. Okay, and then there's your top loading pocket. Perfect. Okay, so I have a couple pieces I want to embellish this with, and I've already made my clusters. So this just is some, these were some digitals. This was a digital. This was just some scrapbooking paper. Here's some trim, and then there's some faux gems. So I'm just going to put that there on the front. Okay, of course you can do, you can put some, whatever you want to put there. I mean, I can make this big piece into another pocket, so I could just glue here and here, and it would be a tuck spot for the, for the front, for another front pocket. Okay, so that's going to be my front cover. All right, and I'm just going to take these pieces out of this one. Okay, so here's a tag, and we're going to stick that right there. So I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm sure you've noticed, but my paper was one-sided, so it wasn't double-sided. So all I did with my cardstock was I inked up the bottom part of it. My first layer was just to ink it, and then I used stamps, and I stamped all the way around. And then that made for my double-sided cardstock. I've got so much double-sided cardstock, and I can find more things to do with double-sided than single-sided. So I just started painting and making my own designs on the back side of single-sided cardstock. Okay, back to the project. All right, so there's that. Okay, we're gonna flip this over. Okay, and we have another pocket right here. Okay, But first of all, I am going to put this cluster right here. I do have to glue this one together. So I am just going to put some glue right here. I like making clusters. I like making them, I like doing lots of junk journaling. And so junk journaling, I do lots of layers on my clusters. So for example, there's one layer here. I like to kind of make them 3D, kind of stick out a little bit. So here's the second layer, and then I put some gems there. So, you know, that kind of gives it a little bit of a layered look, right? And then I use a lot of like trims and lace and I don't know. I'm going off on something totally different compared to what this video is supposed to be. So let me just stick with making my cluster and move on from there. Okay, so here is one cluster that I'm putting on this side. Okay, there we go. Okay, and then we open this up, and let me just steal this one from here. Okay, there's a pocket, right? All right, and then here's that flip part. And then here is here's a top loading pocket, but I can put that in there. Okay, so yeah, basically, well, yes, they are exactly the same. This one's made with a little bit different paper, but it's all the same paper pad. So there we go. You open this up. You have that little flip right there. And there's that. You close that up. Here's this one. Here's the front. Here is the first pocket. Use this for pictures or for journaling. Here's a cluster. Open that up. Here's another pocket. Okay, here's another little flip. Lots of interactive pieces. And then that's all opened. And then here's another top loading pocket. All right, I hope you like that video and you get a chance to make one of these yourself. They're very easy to make. Alrighty, until the next video, thank you.